unfortunately, what most people have done is they've looked outside first. They look at job listings or they look at what other people are doing and they try to fit themselves to those molds that they've heard of. But I suggest that we flip that. We first look inside. Okay, who am I? What do I believe in? What am I good at? And really get that down clearly, and then look out there for what matches us. It changes the whole game.
Hello, and welcome to the Quiet and Strong podcast, especially for introverts. I'm your host, David Hall, and the creator of quietandstrong.com. This is a weekly podcast dedicated to understanding the strengths and needs of introverts. Introversion is not something to fix, but to be embraced. Normally, we'll air each episode on a Monday. Be sure to subscribe on your favorite platform. Leave a review. Tell a friend. Help get the word out there. Val Nelson is a career and business coach for introverts and highly sensitive people, also referred to as HSP, who want meaningful work without overwhelm. She enjoys helping people clarify their career or self-employment decisions. As an introvert and HSP herself, she used to think self-employment was not for her, yet now she enjoys having a thriving business and has learned there are a lot of myths out there about what is possible or not. She believes strongly that living your true purpose is a practical possibility. She helps people through individual coaching, her small groups, her online courses, and her blog.
All right. I am very excited to welcome my guest, Val Nelson. Val, welcome to the Quiet and Strong podcast.
Thank you. This is such a fun topic, and I always enjoy speaking with you. So thanks for having me.
Absolutely. And, I first became aware of Val when I started blogging. I was on Twitter looking for different introvert thought leaders, and I started following Val a long time ago. And then I've connected with her on LinkedIn, and she had a coaching group where I got together with other coaches in a small group, and that was very nice to do that kind of thing. And now I'm excited to have Val on the show.
That's great. Good. Let's do it.
Yeah. So Val is a career and business coach, especially for introverts and highly sensitive people. We definitely talk a lot about introverts on this show, but maybe if you could talk just a little bit about what it means to be a highly sensitive person.
Oh, good. So I'll just say for myself, I always thought, or once I first learned about my own introversion and what that meant, I thought that was the main reason that I, got overwhelmed in certain situations. And come to find out later that I also am a highly sensitive person. And that has its own set of overstimulation potential. It's not just social situations, but it's any kind of sensory input. So for me, things like driving in a car can be, if I'm in the back seat, that's hard, tend to get sick, or heights or smells or sounds or, so certain kinds of touch, so things like that can be overwhelming to our senses, which is different than introversion. But I just have like sort of a double whammy when it comes to situations with lots of people. I can get very overstimulated and I have to be very careful. You can actually be an extrovert and a highly sensitive person. So they're not combined. It's two different things.
Yeah, thank you for making that point. And not all introverts are highly sensitive, and
Exactly.
Some extroverts are highly sensitive.
Yeah,
And
it seems to be two different parts of the brain. I'm not a neuroscientist or anything, but people have researched it, and they're definitely two different things, and it's different parts of the brain affected.
Yeah, and just with the point of this show is, learning to understand your strengths and gifts, and strengths and gifts come with introversion and highly sensitive folks. And so, definitely it's all about understanding that.
Yeah. But can I add another thing about that?
Yeah.
I was actually just speaking with someone the other day, and she was thinking of herself as an introvert and highly sensitive. And the more we talked, I said, have you considered that you might be an extrovert and highly sensitive? And all these things you think of as introverted are actually the high sensitivity. And that sort of lit a light for her. So it's just something to think about for people. They might they might have, it's just it's an interesting combination to get overwhelmed and excited by being around people.
Yeah,
And yeah, we're all different and unique, and it's just interesting all the different things that come together.
absolutely. And it's so important to understand that because, yeah, if you think of the highly sensitive traits as being introverted, you might be missing out on understanding yourself. Um,
Exactly.
I
Yes.
I wrote a blog post a while back on public speaking, and someone I knew very well was associating that, fear of public speaking with introversion. And
Mm,
definitely, this person is extrovert and has a lot of great extroverted gifts. And it's like, no, it's either introverts or extroverts could fear public speaking. You just have to get to know what you need, and the preparation for that's going to be different. And so that's what it's all about. So it's really
yeah.
great to have you on today to talk about how we can get to know ourselves, and especially around the careers. So I do
Yes.
like to start out with, tell us about yourself and when you discovered you were introvert and a highly sensitive person, and how you embrace that.
Thank you. All right. Um, so when I was younger, I was definitely thought of as the quietest person in the room. And looking back, I now understand that was about more than introversion. There was also a lot of stuckness or fear going on for me, which is not the same thing. So, shyness or chronic shyness is not the same as introversion. But anyway, fast forward through college and through my early career, I started to get, much more comfortable speaking, and even did a lot of public speaking, and started to go into teaching. And I I ended up getting quite exhausted when I was doing teaching. And eventually I quit that job even without another job because I was so exhausted. I didn't know what to do. And I ended up going to a career center at a local college where it was the only thing I knew to do at the time. And they gave me the Myers-Briggs type indicator. And so I saw the word introversion there because I got the I, the first
Okay.
letter for introvert. And so I read about it, read what this all meant. And the definition they used didn't have any judgment in it. It was just like, oh, this is just how your brain works.
Yeah.
And that was a big light bulb moment for me, like, oh, this is just how I am. And that's why I got exhausted with so much people time in each day. And so that was, I mean, the rest of the Myers Briggs was also helpful. I actually really like that tool. I use it with my clients if they're open to it. It has a lot of good information, not just about extrovert, introvert.
Yeah, and I enjoy that one as well because it
Mm,
comes up, it gets other pieces of our personality. I think introversion, extroversion is a huge part, but we're multifaceted people, and so
yes.
I think it helps a lot with that too. So I enjoy
Yeah.
that one.
So that was a big wake up call for me, but it's still, I didn't do a whole lot there in that first round of getting career help. I just, kind of went away and was like, okay, well, maybe I should just do something a little more behind the scenes.
Okay.
I ended up getting into human resources and various sort of management kind of jobs instead of front of the room kind of jobs. But still, I kept, hitting burnout walls here and there, and didn't really understand. But at a certain point, it just kept happening so much. Now, let me back up and say I've had some really amazing uh, jobs and wonderful, fulfilling experiences. And then for whatever reason moved on to something else and then hit that wall again. And so I just didn't understand what the pattern was until I finally saw a career coach and started putting things together. And for various reasons, it also hit me like maybe I want to be a coach. And the more I looked into that, the more that's when the light bulbs really went on for me. It was just like, oh, so many of my strengths and my interests and my values kind of came together in that one place. I realized I had been trying it in different ways through human resources or supervising and mentoring people. And when I finally landed, like, oh, it was just such a relief. I feel like it's a great match for an introvert because you can make it what you want. You can do more of the one-on-one deep conversations that introverts tend to really like and excel at. And or you can also do workshops and things like that. So I've done some of each. I've brought in my experience. So I've done workshops and I lead groups, but I tend to like small groups. I tend to really love my one-on-one. So anyway, that's a bit of the story.
Yeah, I think that's the key is, one-on-one, if you figure out, yeah, it's not that you don't want to work with people, but there's certain ways that are better for you. And that's the key, is discovering that, or small groups, or the workshop setting, but also just how you approach all those things. Like, I like giving workshops too. Some people might think that's strange for an introvert, but no, it's just, but I have to prepare for it.
Yeah. Yeah. I totally agree with what you're saying. Yeah. And it's an ongoing thing. I have to say, I'm always tweaking what I'm doing. Like, I'm noticing at the end of a day, like, wait, why am I feeling a little bit off today? Like, why was I drained? And I've discovered that too many Zoom calls can be draining. And so times have changed, and there's been a little more Zoom stuff. So I have to, like, adjust. There's always something new in the environment, or in your life, and you're aging, or what's happening in your family. So I'm always adjusting. I actually decided that I'm going to do less and less workshops, because that was the most overstimulating for me.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I've decided I really love, so what I've done instead is do more online courses. So I'm pre-recording material that people can watch as videos. And that teacher in me still comes out, and the teaching something and then creating worksheets that go with that. So I love putting those lessons together that way.
Yeah. And that's the thing, understanding that this is how I want to work. This is what gives me energy. This is how I want to be. Or, in my case, I do like the workshops, but I know that I'm going to need a break afterward, and just need to plan for that.
Exactly. For sure. Yes. And when I did do that, I would still really like it. But I really had to plan, like, a day off after, or something like that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I've learned.
So on the Quiet and Strong podcast, we definitely talk about, introverted strengths, honoring our introverted needs. Um, we do some myth busting. Is there a myth or two that you would like to bust about introversion?
Oh, sure.
Yeah.
Uh, there's so many.
Yeah.
There's so much misunderstanding about this. No matter how much it's in the news, no matter how many things are around on social media, there's still a ton of misunderstanding, which is so sad, because it gets in the way of us being able to actually make good use of this self-awareness piece.
Yes.
So one that we've already started to touch on is just this idea that introverts are antisocial. And even introverts will perpetuate this myth. They'll say, well, I'm an introvert, but I'm social. I'm like, you need to erase that sentence. you know, it assumes that introverts are antisocial, which we're not. We have good social skills. We really know how to read people, really good at deep connections. So we are social. We just do it differently than an extrovert might expect. So it's really extroverts that might have labeled us as antisocial, because we might have said, no, thanks, I want to stay home and read a book. But we
Yeah.
still do like our people time too.
I'm glad you put it that way, because sometimes I hear people say, "Oh, well, you just need to act like act like an extrovert, or pretend." And I don't agree with that, because, like
Yeah,
you're
I hate
saying,
that.
if you're saying, "Yeah, I'm being social," well, then I'm being social. I'm always an introvert. I'm never an extrovert. But if I'm being social or doing something, it just means I'm doing that, and I'm doing it using my strengths. So I like how you put that.
Yeah, in fact, I agree with you. I really, when people say, so this kind of leads to the next myth that bugs me, when they say, oh, I'm just going to go put on my extrovert mask to go to that party or go to that networking event. And I'm like, please don't do that. No, be yourself, focus on one-on-one conversations. And you're going to have more flow and ease and enjoyment, and it's just going to work better too. So
Yeah, that's
no
the thing.
mask, no masks.
When you have a mask, or you try to pretend, it's very draining, and it also just really doesn't work. It doesn't.
Exactly. That's what's draining, is when we
Yeah.
put on that mask.
Yeah, it doesn't
And
work
it's
well.
and it's useless. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. What about what are maybe some strengths, or even like to call them superpowers, that you have, or you work with a lot of different people, a lot of different introverts? What are some, and we're all different. We all have different strengths, but what are some big strengths that can come from being an introvert?
Well, two come to mind right off the bat. And I'm going to guess that most introverts have these, and I do. we can read people really well. And it's partly because we tend to observe and take in information before speaking. So we can be in a meeting and listen to lots of things. And then when we have a moment to think or jot down our thoughts, then we can sort of come back with a synthesis of everything we've heard. Or, people are seeming really upset about this one thing. And I heard these 3 points, and here's what I'm thinking, how it comes together. So I think that being able to read people can almost seem magical sometimes, like the way we can pick up on energy, pick up on how things can come together. So I think that's a superpower. And I think I'm good at that. And it's part of why I think coaching is a good fit for me, because I can really pick up on things.
Yeah. And you let all those ideas roll around in your head, like you're saying, and you're putting them all together, and you're never bashing extroverts, but they speak in order to think, but you're thinking first, and you're putting all the best stuff together, and you're sharing what you think is important. And I think that is a big strength of ours, is
I think so too.
coming up with those great ideas. But like you said, taking all ideas in from lots of places sometimes.
Yeah. And it can look like, and I've just been playing with this idea of, sometimes people can say, "Oh, you're overthinking," and they use it as an insult. And I think what they are saying is, you're thinking too long, and we would just want to hurry up. And sometimes we're not overthinking; we're just thinking. you know.
Yeah,
And
amen to that.
I think taking time to think before acting is actually a very effective way of making decisions. In fact, there's so much evidence of that. There's so many very successful entrepreneurs who take time to think and deliberate. And, the fast acting ones are not as successful. So I think it's interesting, the whole slow thinking, fast thinking
Yeah.
mix.
Yeah. So sometimes we make quick decisions, but often as I reflect on decisions I've made and the time that I took my time, I think, you know what? If I would have made a hasty decision here, it would not have gone so well. But I really came up with something good because I did take the time.
Yeah, that's great.
And sometimes I think, I know for myself, I might need a deadline so I don't think for too long. At some point, have to make a decision. That helps me sometimes.
Yes, sometimes I absolutely get stuck.
Mm.
That's for sure. And but I've learned to, when I feel stuck, I've, got my systems. One of which is to talk to a good friend who really understands me, who can ask me the right questions. She's also a coach, a wonderful coach. So that really helps me when I know I'm spinning a little bit.
Yeah. So, the main part of our conversation that I want to get in today is, you help people find clarity and purpose in the work that they do. And sometimes that might be, working for somebody else, and sometimes that might be self-employment. How do you do that? How do you help people find, especially introverts or highly sensitive people, how do you help them find that clarity and purpose, and who's coming to you, and that type of thing?
Mm. Um, well, it's a big question, because it's
Yeah.
the core, or such a core of my work, is helping
Yes.
people around struggles with their work. Um, and so most typically the people that are coming to me are introverts and or highly sensitive women. And they have been in a workplace situation where they're just hitting some sort of burnout. They're questioning it. Sometimes, especially these days during this great resignation we've been in, sometimes they've already quit. And they're like, wait, what do I do now? Um, so I've discovered that part of what's been off for them is that they've been trying to put on an extrovert mask and things like that. I've been, like me, I was working in a environment that was a cubicle environment for a while, and that just drained me so much. I couldn't deal with all that noise. I couldn't concentrate. And so it can just be so many things. But it's usually far more than just the introvert or highly sensitive piece. It's also, they don't really know their best strengths, or they've taken a real confidence hit. They're thinking that, what do I really have to offer? And sometimes it's someone who's been out of the workplace for a while, like maybe as while they're raising kids, and they're going back, and boy, they've got a confidence hit there. They're just like, things have passed me by. I don't know what to do. If really anyone's going to want to even interview me. Um, so so often they're coming to me where there's just like a big tangle around, like, what do I do? And am I going to have to be self-employed? And I don't know if that's really going to work for me. And there's confidence issues, So first we just help with a little breathing room, help them just kind of find their solid ground again. And then we start to look at some things like, okay, what do you value? And what making sure they truly understand what introversion is, or extroversion, whatever the case may be, or high sensitivity or not. Like all these things you need to know about yourself to understand what kind of work environment is going to work for you, and also your strengths. So like what kinds of things you're going to be good at and have the most flow and enjoyment with. Most people don't know their strengths. Most people don't even know their values, and they don't really understand their personality factors. So they might think they do, but mostly they don't. When I actually ask people, they really don't. And so just bringing those into full consciousness and helping to reflect to them based on our conversations and tools that we can use and guided imageries and all kinds of things, things start to come clear, and they start to develop what I call their dashboard. So they're like their values, their strengths, their personality factors, their, talking back to their fear, like where they get their courage, what's their vision for what they're looking for. And so then once we have those puzzle pieces on the table, we can start to look at possibilities, like where might this combination be needed out there in the world. Unfortunately, what most people have done is they've looked outside first. They look at job listings, or they look at what other people are doing, and they try to fit themselves to those molds that they've heard of. But I suggest that we flip that. We first look inside. Okay, who am I? What do I believe in? What am I good at? And really get that down clearly, and then look out there for what matches us. It changes the whole game. So then we're not drained. We go to work and we can enjoy it, and we're not drained, and there's no burnout. Once I did that, no burnout anymore.
Yeah. And that's the key, is really starting inside. And it still surprises me, especially as I do this work, that people aren't taking that time for that self-awareness. That, and you said it, they look at the job first. And sometimes it's a really narrow focus. Like they look at, what type of people they've interacted with, what kind of services they've interacted with, maybe TV shows, and it's just really narrow. But I can tell you, and I've been through something similar where, I didn't understand myself, but once I did, and I really tailored the work I do to my strengths, it's amazing. You don't, like, I love to be home, but I love to work too. I like, I don't dread Mondays. And that's the place to be, is where you really understand yourself and what you can contribute to the world, and what, you use the word flow. That's amazing when you can do that kind of work that you kind of enjoy and lose track of time in.
Yeah. Natural flow is one of my favorite words.
Yeah.
That's what we're going for. That's where we can have our best contribution to the world, where things just start to feel easier. Like, the best way I can describe it is like you're swimming downstream. So you're still working, you're swimming, but the stream is also with you. So imagine what you can accomplish, how much further you can go when you're working in that direction, how much of a bigger difference you can make, if that matters to you, and hopefully it does.
Oh, I
Whereas
love
if
that.
you're going upstream,
Yeah.
imagine how much effort, how exhausted you'll be, and how very little you'll progress.
Yeah, I love that. That's great, because so many people focus on their weaknesses, and we have to, we have weaknesses. We have to deal with those.
Yes.
But if we could really focus on our strengths it's going downstream, just like you described. That's a really good way to
Exactly.
put that.
Downstream swimming. Um,
You have
yeah,
some power.
but
There's some power behind you.
exactly. And we're not all strong in every area. It's just impossible. So we need our people that we go to for those other areas, or we just need to, whatever thing you think you're doing, everything you think you need to do, that's actually it's a draining talent. You need to switch to looking at, okay, actually, I'm really good at this. Let me just do it in this way instead. Now, again, most people don't know what those strengths are or what those true weaknesses or weakening talents are. And so doing a little assessment around that with some help to interpret those assessments can be really helpful.
Yeah, absolutely. And the help interpreting is really important. Having working with somebody can be life changing. Having them help you understand what your strengths are.
Yeah,
Um,
it has been for me, that's for sure.
yeah, it's you're familiar with Strengths Quest, or it's called Clifton Strengths now.
Yeah, Clifton Strengths.
Yeah,
That's what I use most often with my clients.
yeah. So I was in a workshop again. I was still in the self-discovery phase, and I was sitting by somebody, and they're number one. And if people don't know, it's a great instrument. It gives you your top 5 and the ideas you focus on. Your strengths. I was sitting by someone, and their number one was empathy. Okay,
Hmm.
and they were describing it to me. And again, people on listening, don't judge me because I know you're gonna. But she was describing it to me and how she feels other people's emotions. And I think probably, Val, you're probably a little bit more like that than I am. But I'm not made that way. I don't know why. But and actually, if you pay a little more, you can get all 34. And empathy is down like 33 or 34 for me. But that was so helpful to have that conversation with her and realizing how she's experiencing the world and the strengths that come from that. And that, I definitely take a more logical approach, and it's not good or bad. It's just, but understanding that made all the difference, and,
Yeah,
and
it is
and I have,
helpful.
yeah, I have empathy, but mine is I'm going to imagine what it's like to be you. I'm going to put myself in your shoes in my head. Now, this other person, she has a gift to be able to feel people's emotions that I don't know why I don't have, but my gift is I have a great imagination, and I'm going to think about, okay, what's this person? What's it like to be this person? So again, it's so
Mm.
important to know our own strengths.
Yeah, and how we might come at something we're trying to do.
Yeah.
Yeah. Um, by the way, on the Clifton strengths, a lot of people just get their top 5, but you have strengths that go all the way to like probably 10 to 13 in that list. And so there's a lot of strengths to draw on that you'd be missing out on if you don't get the full report.
Yeah. So I like looking at my top 10,
Yeah.
and then
Yeah.
my bottom 3 were really helpful. So, and
Yeah.
then after that, it's kind of a repeat. And like, you said, sometimes you might just approach something a little bit differently. And, like, anyway, we could definitely talk about that for a long time.
Yeah, right. I think of
Um,
the bottom 5 are probably your weakening talents or the ones that are draining. So those are the ones that's another piece of the gold of that tool is so you find out what's at the bottom so you can avoid those things.
yeah. So do you ever get the question, what's the best job for introverts?
Oh yeah, it is by far the most popular blog post on my website too, because
Okay.
that question came up. So I decided to write a post about it, and whew, lots of people searching on that. What are the best jobs for introverts, or in my case, it's for highly sensitive people, the article. So yeah, and um, the answer is yes, there's a lot of things that introverts might gravitate to, like more behind the scenes or more one-on-one type interaction, or more quiet environments, or um, respectful environments, things that a lot of people might like. But as I've alluded to already, like we need to know a lot more than just introversion in terms of choosing. We need to know our values and our strengths and all those other things. So that's the other thing that I try to help people with. It's not just, you don't just look at one piece. There's a number of puzzle pieces.
Okay. And again, it's just a matter of how you would approach a particular type of job, like there's many jobs that could be done by introvert or extrovert, but it's just
Yeah.
how. I think the question becomes how, instead of can I do this, it's like how will I do it?
Yeah.
That's the
That's a great
difference.
point. In fact, I'll say this, a lot of people don't realize how much say they have over their existing job or even within the existing company they're working for. There are when you really understand who you are, what your needs are for doing your best work, your best flow, then it's so much easier to stop apologizing for it and to turn towards here's what I'm good at. Hey, and you might start seeing those opportunities where you already are like, hey, I could just switch my job in this way. Like I knew this woman who she was in a management role and feeling very drained by it. And when she realized what she was really good at is those one-on-one mentoring things, she was able to switch her job to more focus on the people she was supervising and less of the sort of PowerPoint orientation or whatever was going on. And they were just able to shift things around. And she started to actually like her job and excel at it and get a promotion. And it surprised her. But she thought she had to change careers altogether.
Yeah, that's
Yeah,
amazing.
but I see this over and over when people get really clear that it's easier for them to speak up and to ask for what they need, and people are more likely to respond, especially in this environment where there's such a shortage of workers in many areas. They're like, I've seen people get job offers where they say, I'll do this half, not that half, and I'll work from home, and I'll do this, and the people are going, okay. So that's pretty cool.
Yeah, and I think that's the key is being able to articulate. Here's how I'm going to do this best. Here, and not apologize, like you said. And
Yeah.
also, sometimes it's a matter of us that we can do something differently, or maybe it's partnering. Maybe it's working with somebody that has some different gifts than you do, and that could be a key too.
Yes. Yes. And let's talk about self-employment for a moment. A
Yes.
lot of people, and including myself, a lot of introverts will say, "Well, that's really extrovert territory."
Mm.
But I would say it's actually a great territory for introverts. The more independence, we can control our own environment. We can still have, even if you're a solopreneur like myself, working from home with no business partner or anything, I still have colleagues. I still can collaborate. So you can kind of pick and choose your coworkers and make it what you want. It can be just so good. And even the marketing part, there are ways to do it that are introvert friendly. I don't do anything that's draining to me for client attraction. Like, for instance, podcast interviews. That's a one-on-one conversation that totally draws on my introvert strengths.
Yeah.
And it still helps with visibility. So there's lots of ways we can make self-employment work.
Yeah. So that's a lot of what you do is people end up going into self-employment. Maybe they were thinking that wasn't for them. So how do you
Yeah.
help somebody work through that?
Yeah. Oh, it's one of my favorite things for some reason, just because it was
Mm.
such a powerful journey for me to sort of discover that I could do this thing that I was drawn to, but I thought it wasn't for me. But to start to open up that world and see how exciting and creative it could be. And so I love helping people go from that, oh, I can't do that, to, oh, maybe I can. Maybe I can explore that. And to just, I kind of break it down step by step, like, okay, here's what you think about first. Like making sure that first you're choosing the right career path in general. And then we look at like, what's the structure that's going to help with that? And it might be self-employment, or it might be something kind of in between, like being a contractor. Like you have, one or two major employers, but really you're an independent contractor. So you keep some of your independence too. So there's lots of different ways to make it work for you. So anyway, I love helping people with all those pieces. I don't do everything. I'm not an accountant. I'm not help them with set up taxes or whatever, but I help people understand what they need to think about.
Yeah. And, we were talking about that. We all have our different gifts, and I think that's on purpose. We do need each other,
Yes.
and yeah, maybe you're not the accountant or with somebody that's starting their business. Maybe that's something that they would gravitate towards, and maybe it's absolutely not. Um,
Right.
I run a business with my wife, and And a lot of that, she's the creative one. And but that's something that I took on, is the accounting part of it. I don't love it, but it's something I can do to contribute to our business. And it's something that, she could do it, but she doesn't enjoy it as much.
It's funny. I used to hate the whole like accounting part of the business because it just felt like I didn't understand the software and all this stuff.
Yeah.
But now it's now I just have a tax accountant but I do all the bookkeeping myself because I discovered now that I understand the software and someone else set it up.
Yeah.
It's so easy. It's like a go-to relaxing thing now. It's funny.
Yeah.
You never know what parts that you think are so impossible actually turn out to be so easy.
Yeah. But you help people work through those different pieces to figure out, what they need to be successful.
Yeah, exactly. Helping them see where their fears are and how can we like make it easier. Yeah.
Okay. So how would you sum up really helping people find that clarity and purpose in work, whether they're working for someone else or for themselves?
To sum it up, I would say you got to go inside first and understand, what you're about. What are you naturally good at? What are you naturally drawn to? What is your heart saying? Now, these are hard questions. Like I was saying before, like these are hard things to know about yourself. So usually it takes getting some outside support, even if it's from friends, to reflect to you what they see. But I do think the most efficient path would be to work with a career business coach. And then another path could be doing like a course. So I wanted to help more people because I tend to get kind of full. And so I decided to create a career clarity course so people can walk through on their own time. And then but I wanted to still support people. So I have, calls they can come to and interact and bring their questions and situations that's included in the course. So
Very
that's
nice.
another way, because that brings the price way down. And, it's like in between, a lot of people try to do it with a book. I tried that for years. Luckily I've collected lots of career books.
Yeah.
But there's only so far you can go completely on your own. So having a system to kind of help coax you through the steps, support you in certain ways, and then also have some people to talk to in the process.
Very nice.
Really helpful.
Did you say what the course was called?
It's called Career Clarity Course, and then the subtitle is Simple Steps to Uncover the Best Use of You.
Yeah, that sounds amazing.
It's been good. I've had it out for about a year and a half, and so a number of people have been through it and have given me great stories about what's come out of it for them, and even some ideas for how I can make it better. And so I continue to tweak it. And yeah, I like how that's going.
So Val, this has been a great conversation. Is there anything else that you want to talk about that we haven't hit on?
I think that's it. I do love mentoring other coaches, and so that's been a fun part of my work as well.
Yeah, tell us a little bit about that. Like, how do you approach that work, helping other coaches?
Well, some people work with me one-on-one, and most of them are in one of my groups that I call the Coaches Circle. It's small. All my groups, I have 4 groups running, and they're all a max of 6 people. So I really like that sort of small group community that introverts tend to like to.
Yeah, yes.
And we really turn to each other and support each other along the way. And so in the Coaches Circle, they really are turning to each other like, hey, how do you do newsletters? And what about video? And do I have to do social media? Just talk very honestly. And we find, so we can share ideas about, what are the introvert friendly ways to do marketing, and what kind of coach are you, what style of coaching. So it's been very powerful. I love that.
Yes. And again, I went to a get together you had, like I said in the beginning, and I experienced that exact same thing. It's really great to talk to other people,
Yeah.
that are working towards similar things.
Yeah. I have a group that I call Soulpreneurs, SOUL. So it's about soulful self-employment. So that's for people doing any kind of service-based self-employment work, to also have that sort of camaraderie. And then my other 2 groups are both career explorers. So people who are still in that process, because it can take a while. And it can be discouraging when you're going through your career exploration process, even to clarify what you're doing and then to go try to find it. So those groups have been really powerful to just keep people going, keeping them encouraged, and helping them find their way.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point. It's definitely not something you figure out overnight. Usually, it's
No.
it's a process, but it's an important one. And as we've talked
Yeah.
about, it can make all the difference in the world if you get to know who you are, what your strengths are, what your needs are, and you can really find fulfilling work. Because again, we've both been on the other side of not having that fulfilling work, and it makes
Yeah.
all the difference. You spend a lot of your time doing work, and hopefully, it's providing for what you need, but also it's very fulfilling.
Yeah.
And so,
It is possible. It definitely takes perseverance, and it definitely takes finding your way and having a support team of some kind. No one does it alone.
yeah, such a great conversation today, Val. Of course,
Oh, great. Thank you, David.
where can people find out more about the work that you're doing?
valnelson.com.
All right.
VALNELSON.
Sounds great. Again, thank you
Thank
so
you.
much for you being on the show today.
Thank you very much.
All right. Take care.
Thank you so much for joining me today. I look forward to further connecting with you. Reach out at david@quietandstrong.com. Check out the website, quietandstrong.com. I'll add social media channels for me and my guest to the show notes. Please comment on social media posts. Send me topics or guests you'd like to see on the show. There's so many great things about being an introvert, and so we need those to be understood. Get to know your introverted strengths and needs and be strong.